I'm just going to be real here. Never watched much Luke Smith. I never really watched much YouTube. I'm not really a YouTube kind of guy. If I watch a little bit of YouTube, I used to watch Asmongold talk about video games. I don't know why. I just loved it when he talked about video games. And now I don't really watch much at all. So Luke has released a video for the first time in like how many years now, right? And so I love that he has a stained shirt on. It's just so good. My kind of man, okay? So it's been a couple years. So let's listen to this out.
I think people severely underestimate the effect that they can have on the world. In fact, it's almost like the disease of the modern life. People have this perception, they have this idea of the world as just being a bunch of forces beyond my control. They're historical forces. There are, I don't know, all these trends that I can't helpfully, I can't resist. I just have to go along with them. And ultimately,
by the way, is there something wrong with like how he's filming or all that? Or does he have like a full-on just platinum grill? Is that what's going on here?
Helpfully, I can't resist. I just have to go along with them. And ultimately, I have no control over my own life. And I think that could not be, when you eventually in your own life realize that is not the case, it might be too late. So now,
by the way, it is his beard. Okay, it's his mustache that's actually going over his teeth that make it look like that. Okay, I totally understand that. And by the way, he is spitting a lot of facts right here, okay? A lot of people, they already have a predetermined ceiling in which they can reach because they look at themselves as only, the leaf in the river, and that's that.
I've done a video before. I was going to say a little bit ago. It's probably a couple years ago now. Talking about like the kind of implicit psyop in television, right? Why, especially if you have this kind of a TV show where everything resets at the end of the show, right? People do stuff, they make friends, they win money, they do whatever, and at the end it all resets back to normal because you have to get ready for the next show. That implicitly tells you something about life. It tells you that life is the way it is, and you can't really do anything about it. But I think talking about TV is a little superficial. A way to make it a little clearer is that all of us in the modern world.
I don't actually understand that. I'm still sorry. I'm just processing through that TV one. I assume he's talking about like a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire thing, or one of these many game shows that have some sort of grandiose prize at the end, and 99% of people don't make it through the whole thing, and they get through. Education is a problem. Education can be a problem. No, like a thing sitcom. Okay, something more like Seinfeld style, Simpsons, where it's just people living in a kind of a stuck permanent world. Thing happens. Stuck permanent. Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. I was trying to understand that analogy because it was a bit confusing for me, trying to grasp what is he trying to say. Okay. It's kind of like a hair dye in your grandmother's hair. I know you're probably thinking, where are we going with this analogy? I didn't realize how old my grandmother was or how little time she had left until I saw her without hair dye. And then I realized how much faster life actually was, and that I was missing that small little fractional bit of time left with my sweet, sweet dear grandma. She always looked the same, always had the same hair color, everything's always the same. And then when she started to fall sick, all of a sudden it's just like stark white. And I realized, oh my gosh, she's much older than I realized.
A way to make it a little clearer is that all of us in the modern world have basically gone through what is a kind of brainwashing to make you servile, to make you accept that basically everything is beyond your control. And really, that's basically formal education. And what I mean by...
Is that true? I mean, there is some level of truth to that in the sense that, growing up, no matter how you grow up, you're gonna have assumptions and ideas about how the universe works that you don't even realize you have. And you're gonna operate, based on that. I mean, this is no matter what the system is, for good or for bad. This is an absolute truth that everybody has to realize, that you have pre-based kind of things in your life that you don't even know why you think that, you don't even realize that you think that, you just operate under that kind of circumstance. So
by that is like formal education is not like the real world. The real world, you have basically infinite possibilities. And if you do something unexpected or valuable or new, that is something that is going to, that's the best thing you can basically do. You can be a little entrepreneurial. You can, readjust how people perceive things. You don't have to follow a strict assignment. You know what I mean? You don't have to, whereas in formal education, obviously the goal is all of the trials you deal with are contrived trials. They're like little games. Here's an assignment, do it this way, color in the lines, spell the right way, etc., etc. And anything outside of that is basically a waste of your time. And
I'm sure this is not true on all things, but I just think about like math. Like, is there any other way to teach math? Right? Like how do you get through integrals other than learning 1,000 times and repeating the same set of exercises with slightly different variations to do that? Got to grind math. Like, I don't see how else you can't do any sort of grinding. I know other people are going to be like, oh, you can learn other things. Most people that say you can learn it different ways are people who have a superficial knowledge about some specific math thing and have never like actually gone through doing inverse trig substitutions. Like, yeah, the only way you can inverse trig substitute is that you have to grind that. You have to grind it for a long, long time.
You know, normie psychology, like mainstream psychology, obviously, even they have this concept of learned helplessness, right?
Ooh, I love
and
this
that's
topic.
the idea that eventually if you put a person in a position where their actions don't really affect the direction of where they're going, they learn helplessness. They become basically depressed. Like depression more or less is like people who are in a life position where they don't feel like their actions make an effect on what they're doing, right? So everything.
By the way, your actions do make a huge effect. Something as simple as doing something different for 10 minutes a day can make a huge difference in your life. Like, it is shocking how much control how many simple steps you can take make a big, outcome difference.
I disagree about that. Japan has a process where they keep the kids uncomfortable in math over 50% of the time, while we here in America are rarely uncomfortable, which turns off parts of our brains.
I'm not saying the American education system's good. Don't worry. I understand that our test scores have been going down every year for the last 40 years. I'm not really sure what it means to be uncomfortable in this situation. Anyways, it's just this idea that it doesn't take a lot to make huge changes in your life. There's so many people that their life story and they're, even just in fitness, these nuts, of course, you see so many people that start off by doing a 15-minute walk a day, and then sometime later in their life, they're running marathons. It is this difference of just a small bit of change over long periods of time make huge differences.
They don't want to do anything. They just sit around. They don't feel like they can affect the world, and that is kind of the disease that so many people have,
By the way, you may not be able to affect the world. I think the thing is that your goal should not be to affect the world. The goal should be to be able to affect your life. You know what I mean? That should be the goal. You have more control over your life. I don't really attempt to affect the world because that is a difficult or untenable thing.
What's even worse is we have this mindset in the modern world, especially in, let's say, the post-Enlightenment world, that this is a justification for all of this, right? So you have this idea that everything in the world is just kind of a natural trend, right? That you ultimately cannot arrest, you cannot stop. It just has to be how it is, Now this is very ubiquitous in politics and stuff like that. You're told this is just how it is. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't have an effect. This is just a natural end result of what's going on. And this is, we have sociologists, we have economists, we have all these political theorists who will tell you this is how it has to be. And this isn't me endorsing some kind of utopianism, but I am saying that people need to understand there have been so many times in history, in fact, not just different discrete times, at every moment in history can be defined by individual people, okay? I'm very much a fan of the whole great man theory of history. I think that's really the most accurate way. I mean, it's the oldest, basest, and most traditional way of describing history, really.
The oldest and most basic. I mean, or to say what he's saying, I think what he's effectively making the argument is be Jean-Luc Picard. Be the captain of the ship. I know, where is it still snowing? Dude, I have no idea where it's still snowing. But I mean, just remember, for every Jean-Luc Picard that is the captain of the Enterprise, there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who, though make some amount of change and affect change, they are meaningless comparatively to the Jean-Luc scale. And so I don't know. I mean, if his argument's that you should strive to be a great man of history, which is based on the title, I mean, there's parts of it that's true. There's parts of it that's not true. It's there's also just, it's better than being a gigantic figure, being a good dad. That's better.
You look at the country of France, okay? Why do French people speak French, okay? Because Julius Caesar, millennia ago, invaded Gaul. He installed the Roman Empire or the Roman Republic in that area, and those people speak that language because of this one man,
Yeah, and we also call September the 9th month, month 7, okay? Julius wasn't that great, okay, brother? Okay? We September 7, October 8, November 9, December 10. Why the hell is that 9, 10, 11, and 12? Okay? You know why? Because Julius is like, hey, bro, I want my own month. It's now July. And then some other asshole made August. And now guess what? Everything's all screwed up. September, the 9th month. Why didn't you add it to the end, Julius? Why do you got to be in the middle? Why do you got to do that? Why do you got to ruin my stuff?
You know what I mean? That's just what kind of I'm getting at. And there are many domains now. Like, it would be stupid to say, you know, figures nowadays. I mean, let's say people are talking about Trump because he got reelected, but it would be stupid to say that Donald Trump is not a significant figure. You know, we don't exactly know how he's going to be significant. We don't know. But either way, what it's stupid to say, and this
The
is
things he did
this
to
is
ruin
what
salads, am I right?
the kind of the point of what I'm getting at. It's stupid to say something like there are just natural tendencies in the world. There's nothing we can do to stop them. Therefore, if any one person does this, that, or the other, it doesn't really matter. Therefore, if I do this, that, or the other, it doesn't matter.
So he's actually kind of talking about like my fundamental basis for why you should contribute to open source. People are like, you see it on the internet, there's like these two kind of warring factions on the open source world. Well, there's technically like three. There's the open source people that are just trying to make open source stuff, and it'd be great if they had funding. And that's how they feel. Then there's the number two people that are just like, you know, open source project with corporate sponsors are just corporate shills, right? They're all angry about corporatism inside of open source. And then there's the other side that's like, you know who needs to pay for open source? Corporations. They're the ones that need to do that, right? So there's kind of like this kind of weird factions in the open source world. This is why you constantly hear me say the exact same thing over and over again, which is go and contribute to the open source projects you want to see to be a success. Because it's not about attempting to make the world conform to what you think is right. It's about acting on the virtues.
Warren Buffering mentioned.
Shut up, Warren factions. No, it's about acting on the virtue you say is important. If you think open source deserves to be funded, go fund it. Quit waiting for somebody else to jump into stuff. It is about, you know, and so that's kind of this thing that I keep thinking about over and over again, which is that often people will say what they want and there's these ideals, but they don't actually act on their ideals. They don't actually be the change they want to be. They're kind of waiting for somebody else to do that.
And again, you're taught this, you know, again, in formal education, implicitly. It's not like your teachers sit down and say, I'm going to brainwash, I'm going to psyop this little kid. But they just accidentally do it because, you know, it necessarily is this affair of putting a kid in a box, like teaching him to do something simple, but also making sure he doesn't expand past that box, you know? And even online, like I will note, like there are a lot of guys, you know, they'll mail me or email me, or like they'll write a comment saying, hey, Luke, I want to make money on the internet. I want to do this. I want to blah, blah, blah. What should I do? And it's like, even then, when people want to be entrepreneurial, and this is unfortunate, when they want to be entrepreneurial, where they want to take that extra step, they still almost have this reflex to just ask someone, what do I do step by step? Explain it to me. That's what
Dude, you see that like even today. How many times has it happened today where someone comes in here and is like, hey, I really want to get into X. How should I get started? Hey, I really want to do this. How should I get started? Should I be a data engineer, a data scientist, or a software engineer? Which one should I choose? And there's like a constant desire to have somebody tell you what to do. I don't know what it is, but I always think of it as asking permission. It's like people constantly ask permission to do something. I want you to take this home, this notion. The next time you sit and you say, hey, I want to build something. What do I build? And then you go on and you come onto the stream or you go onto the internet and you just start asking, what do I build? What do I build? Like, what is the motivation behind that? My guess is that a lot of people are so worried about building the wrong thing or wasting their time or not being able to get like the best resume addition that they don't do anything. That they sit there, they think for a long time, they get upset at the fact that they haven't come up with the best idea, and they just simply put away their trying and go and play Balatro. Because that's just simply easier than trying to figure out what is the best thing possible. And the very, very, very simple answer is that there really is no best thing. If you talk to anybody who's created something, they didn't start out by creating, like Joel. We were just reading Joel on Software article earlier. Joel did not start off by creating Trello. He created and created and created and created for like a decade and a half. And then when he realized, he went, oh, wait a second, look at this huge gap right here. I think I could do this better. People forget that a lot of these overnight successes and these people that do really amazing things, they didn't do something amazing because they just woke up one day and said, I have the world's most amazing idea. They also had a decade of experience that they had to go through to get to that point. And sometimes you just gotta let the ideas happen. So you just build the first thing, just build whatever. It doesn't matter. It's about the process. It's about doing something. And then as you do it, you realize even more and more and more and more and more and more. And then all of a sudden you're just off and running and things are fantastic.
I need. And that quite literally is like not how it works. I think what's more important, especially for I think younger guys, I think it's more important for them to sit around and have kind of real world experiences with like kind of how the world actually works, to unlearn your learned helplessness, to see like, oh, I can very easily have an effect on this. I can do this. I mean, just an example. I was only told last month. There's the guy who made the Yankee Candle Company, right? So in America they sell these like scented candles, all this kind of stuff. It's a massive. The guy who started it, he has this massive mansion. He remade, I think the house he grew up in, just made it very beautiful architecture. You should look it up. But either way, the guy who started that, he basically made candles when he was 16, just as he wanted to get his mom something for Christmas. And she liked it and he turned it into a business. And the rest is kind of history. And obviously it's not like this guy has changed the direction of the universe. But he's changed what you find in gift stores, because now you have this new option and other companies imitate it and all this kind of stuff. And it changes the vibe of houses and all this. But that's really what you really need to realize is everything is like that. There are no there's no materialist thing that led that guy to reach this particular entrepreneurial solution. And that's the entirety of our life. Every little business that started or every invention is something like this. It's often people who happen upon something. And there might be many things that are just laying there that we don't know. It'd be kind of like imagine if we had, actually, there have been many human societies that have reached a level of complexity that don't have something basic like the wheel. The Incan Empire, they didn't have wheels, They were great. They expanded over a lot of territory, and you can argue why they don't have it. But imagine being the Incan emperor and then being introduced, we could invent a wheel and do this, that, or the other. That's kind of how it is. And we're in that same position where there's so many opportunities we don't know.
It's a bit of a ramble. To tell you the honest truth, I got a little lost in the sauce over that last point. I was really trying to gather that last point from candles to Incas. I think I got a little outside there. You know what I mean? I think I got a little outside. But hey, I said this. I've said this on several interviews. One of the reasons why I started my channel, right? Because I hated tech discourse on Twitter and in the workplace. Everything was just so annoying. If you said the wrong thing at all, if you stepped out of line at all, if you didn't just do this constant conference-driven development, you were you were a bad person. I just hated it. The pinnacle thing that I hated the most on Twitter, and I still think about this. Dude, this thing has been living rent-free in my head for so long. I'm sure someone can find the link on Twitter for this one. I just can't find it anymore. But there's a guy. Don't even remember the guy. It doesn't even matter. He made a T-shirt, a black T-shirt that had 4 names on it in white text. And it was off of some popular T-shirt at the time. It was 2015 or something like that, 2016. And he just made this. He just made this T-shirt and was just hey, here's a T-shirt with my favorite React people on it, right? It was kind of nice. It's kind of a sweet gesture. Hey, I took time out of my day and I just wanted to talk about something. I wanted to uplift some other people. Here are people that I think are super cool. It had Ken Wheeler on the shirt. I think it said Wheeler across it. Donovan. I think the person's name was Donovan. Anyways, that happened. Made a T-shirt. Totally a benign thing. And really, when you think about it, it's actually kind of a sweet gesture. Like, that's that. Just some random guy wanted to say thanks to people he looked up to. That's that. The React community, including some people on the internet that I'm pretty disappointed by jumping on that, effectively just dogpiled that guy. Dude, you're erasing women, you're doing this, you're doing that. It's like the guy said he likes pancakes, and then people will be like, man, that's pretty awful what you're saying about waffles right now. And it's just like he didn't even have, like, it's just like a poor guy on the internet. And so it's just like, I hated it so much that I just wanted something so much different in the tech world. Like, that's why this is what it is, right? And so it's just like, dude, I can't do that. I can't be a part of that. I want something different where you don't have to feel weird just because you liked something and made something. You shouldn't be dogpiled for that. If it's completely benign nonsense. Now, obviously, there's some things that you could make that are naughty. This ain't it. That's not the thing. There's no way that those people have any power, though, right? They did have power. Like, you forget the world that we used to live in. 2016 Twitter was like just the worst. Yeah, we can take inspiration from his intention. Exactly. You should lift up the guy that was attempting to just lift up people he found inspirational. It's just like, I feel bad for the guy more than anything else because he was just a dude, right? Just a dude trying to be a dude. Yeah, cancel culture was a big thing, exactly, and I just hated it. I hated it so dang much. It was 2016 Twitter worse than 2015? Or 2025? Oh, yeah, hands down. 2025 is kind of stupid. We've kind of reached a weird... It's actually kind of funny, like Uncle Bob's bathrobe rants. Like, that's just funny to me. I'm having a great time. It's just so silly on Twitter. Like, long as you stay out of, like, the politics side of Twitter, everything else is really not all that bad. They created a honeypot for everybody that acted that way. It's called Blue Sky. And now all those people that were just like intense cancelers are all over on Blue Sky. And now Twitter can mostly be just kind of stupid. And so it's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Right? Mr. Martin's rants are quite entertaining. I think they're entertaining. They're just like, I don't even agree with them, but I watch them because I'm like, this is kind of funny, And the way he talks is like a cartoon character. When they're creating microservices, they're just services, right? It's just like, it's just funny to me, right? I'm just enjoying the experience, I do believe he has a future as a voice actor, exactly. Your silence on waffle oppression is deafening. I know, anyway, so there you go. That's kind of like the thing. Sorry, I went on this whole rant because I feel like that's kind of what he was saying. It's just like, it just bothers me, And so sometimes you can just act different. You don't have to act in accord with what people demand. And sometimes I think good change has come from it. I don't think I'm the only one that I don't think I led the change. I don't think I was, what's it called? I don't think I was the vanguard of said change. Dude, that was a great impression. Thank you. I actually really, really tried on that Uncle Bob impression. I just think I was just a point on the graph. And there was enough points that people started drawing straight lines and said, wait a second. What's happening here? Like, maybe we could just all just have people talk about what they're building and it's fun. And that's that. Maybe tech can just be fun. Maybe you could just build something that's not necessarily the world's most enterprise application, and it's okay. Like, it's just fun for the sake of being fun. Maybe you could build 1 million checkboxes, and it's just hilarious for the sake of being hilarious.
I don't want to say like even entrepreneurial.
If everyone here tried to follow what Luke is saying here, companies would have a hard time finding employees. I don't know if that's true. Like, the entire motto of Netflix was that we try to find adults who can make decisions for themselves. And, like, that worked out really well for Netflix. Being an adult that can make your own decisions is, like, a pretty positive thing. That's kind of how I'm looking at it, is that if I could take the essence of his argument, is that, like, you can affect change. You can affect change in your life, and maybe there's a chance that you can affect, like, change even outside of your life. I don't think he's making enough points into the place you should be focusing on is your life and your life only, the things you can control. Instead, it's like the grandiose ones, right? I don't think, like, I'm not Alexander. You're not Alexander. None of us are Alexander. That's okay. We don't need to be that guy.
Actions, because it's not, I'm not really saying this to make money or to make businesses or anything like that. That's not really my objective in saying this. What I am saying is that individual people obviously have way more of an impact on the world than they expect.
Yeah.
And people, I think the error, if you look at the world as just being something, that's what other people are doing. I'm just an observer,
Think about something as this, is like, think about all the many little interactions you have every single day. Just even being more happy and talking to people and asking how they're doing. Like, you just make their life slightly better as opposed to slightly worse. Like, just something as simple as that.
That is such a negative worldview because it really consigns you to being a cog in the machine, right? Because if that's truly how you think of things, you really can't do anything other than be an employee, right? And that actually, just as a side note about that, I talked about this in kind of the BS Jobs podcast or whatever, but like, people nowadays have this assumption that just that's how the world works. You have to be an employee and you work yourself up in the corporate ladder and you make more money and you're a bigger employee. You're a bigger slave to some kind of company. And
I kind of hold a slightly different view. I think it's okay to just be an employee. Not everything's being a founder, or not everything is making your own path. It's like, okay. It's okay to be an employee. In fact, if you look at the world, most people were employees. It doesn't have to, like, I don't look at it as a pejorative position. Like, it's not a bad thing. You find you find the right company. Like, how much do you want to bet working at base camp's probably awesome? Like, the lowest paid person was like 400 and some thousand until they're just hiring their first intern. Their first intern they're hiring is at like, what, 150,000 a year? Like, that sounds like a great company to work at. That's a company I'd want to work at.
And, obviously throughout human history, most people have just not been employees, even if they're living simple lives as a farmer, like, they have a level of independence that people just don't have nowadays, and now.
I don't know how true that is or how true that can be in the modern world. Yeah, like when we were in subsistence farming time, sure, that's true. But life was like objectively worse back then, okay? It's like, it's not good. I would not call any sort of like, I don't want to, first off, serfdom was like a real thing. Most of the Dark Ages was just feudal lords and, feudal peasants. So I don't want to romanticize the past, but just being a farmer living off the land, there were plenty of good things about it. But also, your wife died after giving the 7th child birth at like 35. You lived to be like 50. You accidentally stepped on something that was slightly rusty and you just died from tetanus. Right, like that, it's just like life wasn't that great. They used to be like, oh my gosh, there's someone that's 80 years old. Look at him, he's 80. Right? There's literally a guy in the Bible called Barzillai who's just known for being old. He was like 90, and they're like, we're going to put that man in the Bible. Like, what? Like, that's, it's just a reality of life. Is not everybody lived to be all that old. Okay? It was tough. It was a tough life. It was really tough. Sounds reasonable. I know. Barzillai, the Gileadite? I can't remember. Anyways, being 90 will just put you in a home now, yeah. 78's par for the course right now. Gilead mentioned, yeah.
Unfortunately, in so many cases, like, people get so good at following orders as employees, and they get so emotionally attached to the comfort of having a certain job and a certain income that, if it's hard for them to even switch to some other job, to like change their life orientation, because like so much is riding on something almost so inconsequential. And
by the way, that's like such a good, like, this actually is like an amazing point to pull out. Lifestyle creep and things like that can really affect your life so greatly that you're like stuck in this world where you can't leave your current job because you're having troubles finding something that pays as well. Like, that's real. Like, that's super real. Like, what he's saying there is like such a good thing. It's hard on marriages. It's hard in life. You'll find yourself not being able to be there as much for your kids or yourself or anything. Your wife, you just like have to be this ghost figure that's kind of trapped on stuff. Anyways, it's super good. Super good.
All of this, like the slavishness of modern man, I really think, there are a lot of things that cause it, but I guess the one I'm thinking today is this kind of like this concept of formal education which is tied in with this idea.
Someone is saying, well, imagine a country without safety nets for those kind of things. No, what we're talking about is that you go off, you get a job, you went from working as an intern making $90,000 a year to working somewhere else making $150,000, $200,000 in America. I know American dollars are much larger than other dollars, but I'm just giving it from my perspective of America. Software engineer, absolutely crushing it. And then you go and you move to the Bay Area and you're working and you're getting like $300,000, $400,000 being in the Bay Area, loving life, but now you have to make $400,000. You cannot not make that. There's no, that, I mean, I think we could all agree it's not the government's job to make sure everybody has a $400,000 salary, right? That would be kind of a very confusing set of things. Okay, that's not what I'm arguing. I'm not arguing about social safety nets. We're arguing about this idea of lifestyle creep, where you go from making amount of money and you keep on growing the amount you need to make, because when you start making more, you fill it up more. Like, how many people do you meet? I've met so many people that have a plus $1,000 a month for just their car, right? Like, that puts you into a certain category. When you are paying $1,000 a month for your car, that means you minimally need to have, what, $20,000, $22,000 a year being brought in for taxes, plus being able to put it into your car, plus any sort of maintenance or gas or anything like that. Just one car. Yeah, you see this all the time. It's mind-boggling, right? It's crazy. Yes, most people in the Silicon Valley are tied to making $300,000 to $400,000 a year. Yeah, it's true.
Idea of there being trends in history that we can't stop. There are just tendencies. It's kind of like the
Cars
old
are expensive,
thing where
yeah.
if an economist is walking on the ground and sees a $100 bill, he says, "No, that's not there, because if there were a $100 bill on the ground, someone would have already picked it up," right? That's kind of the mindset. Like, it's like good things happen to them and they have to explain why it can't happen, or why I can't do this, why I can't blah blah blah. And that's when you're in the domain of like pure coping. I did a video on like free will and stuff like that, and I said, like, people often act like, it's a big red pill to believe that there's no free will. Actually, it's just the opposite. It's actually, it's very comforting for people to not believe in free will, because it ultimately means, like, I don't have to be responsible for what I do or don't do. Okay, I don't have to worry about, I've been sitting around working like a simple job that doesn't matter. I'm just an employee. Oh, I couldn't have done anything else. I'm safe where I am. I'm the best I could possibly be. And it's a frightening feeling, no matter how I guess like impactful you are, that like you're not there. You know what I mean? You're not 100%. I'm not 100%. You're not 100% like what you could be doing. And so, just remember that when you're, I don't know, hustling or whatever. Either way, that's it. I gotta go.
That ending was almost a bit confusing, because I think for the majority of it, I think a lot of people would have taken away the thing that you should be hustling and trying to build some sort of great thing, or to be some sort of impactful type of life. The ending I felt I felt a little bit confused by. Anyways, yeah, I can definitely purchase the idea that free will, that the argument that if you don't think you have free will, it is in some sense a an easier thing to believe, because then you know that you don't have any consequence. You just dance to the coding of your DNA. I get that argument, or I understand why people make that argument. Either way, there's a lot of really great things in this video. It's interesting to hear this, because this is not like the normal thing we talk about on this, and I'm happy that I saw some comments in here that were like, oh, something about politics. I'm glad we didn't actually step into that dumb world. I liked this. This was great. We got both Red Pill and Cope in one video. It's amazing. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Feeling philosophical today. Well, it's just more like, the thing is that I think if you could boil this video down into a 30-second short, the short would say something along the lines of, most people operate and live in a world where they think they have no say in what happens. They are the thing that floats down the river, pushed and pulled by the various tides, the eddies and the flow of the river. But the reality is that even taking something as simple as 10 minutes a day to journal, you will change your life. You take 20 minutes a day, you're going to have a bigger impact or a bigger change in your life. You take 30 minutes a day and pursue the thing you want, you in a couple years could be potentially in a much, much different position. And so it's like the choice or the direction you have is much bigger. There is a rudder on your leaf, and you actually have a lot more opportunity to move things around than you realize. Anyways, and then for the people, I still saw a lot of chatter about someone like laughing. How could anyone be tied to $400,000 a year? Like, that's so stupid. It's really not that stupid. Honestly, it's not that stupid. I know it's funny. It's very, very funny, and it seems super stupid from someone looking on the outside. But it's the same reason why I think it's so stupid that my browser takes up a whole bunch of megabytes to run. It's because I just don't simply understand it. That's all. Like, I think it's ridiculous that my browser needs 700 megabytes on average per tab. I think it's stupid. But the reality is I just don't understand the problem. People that end up making $400,000 a year, well, they have a nice car for them plus a nice car for their wife. They no longer eat the same meals that they used to. They go out to eat more often. They've just risen all these little teeny costs. And the next thing you know, they've just simply made their life that expensive. And there's not like some one decision they've made like, oh, I'm going to live this way. No, they've rented a place that's slightly more expensive for more room. They've done each one of these steps slowly and slowly and slowly until boom, the next thing they know, they now have way too many expenses. And it's just like, it's not like some fast thing. It's like, it's slow and then it's fast. It's just like all problems. Yeah. Private school. They went from being able to go off public and they said, hey, we want to be able to take our kids and give them a different education. Let's go and put them into private school. We think this is better. You don't really realize that you've just also increased your lifestyle habits. So it's very easy. It's very, very easy. And I think that especially when you're in the Bay, when everything costs a lot, you must remember that the house that I lived in the Bay, that was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, was more expensive on Zillow than the 40-acre property that I live on now. This is long before everything inflated and got super, super expensive. And that's the difference between living out in the country and living in the Bay Area. I don't live in the Bay Area anymore. I live out somewhere where there's not that many, we don't have any neighbors, right? It's just like you change a couple things and it turns out you're paying less per month than you were in the Bay Area. Just decisions. Now, is there sushi where I live? There literally is some of the worst sushi I've ever had. And so no, there's no sushi. I don't get any sushi. Am I okay with that trade-off? Yes, I am. Is the weather as nice? No, the weather is not nice. The weather can be really awful. Am I okay with that? Yeah, I'm okay with that. Brother, I have a heater and an AC. And so if it's too hot during the summer, I can turn on the AC. And if it's too cold during the winter, I can turn on the heater. It's not like I'm not outside digging a hole 365 days of the year. I love sushi so damn much. Same here. I love Korean barbecue. There's not one Korean barbecue where I live. There's not even a restaurant. I don't even have bad Korean barbecue. There's just no Korean barbecue. Anyways, I'm just trying to paint a picture that I think it's really easy. I think it's very easy to judge other people. I think if we spent less time trying to measure other people by the virtue we think is good, but instead live by the virtue we think is good, there would be a lot more impact on your own life.